kilio tulicho nacho na wimbo wa huzuni, tukikumbuka marehemu Argwings Kodhek, tukikumbuka marehemu Argwings Kodhek.
Argwings Kodhek was born in 1923 in Siaya County, Game constituency in Malanga area. He hailed from Kogola Ujudi clan. Clement Michael George was his baptismal name. This was later localized to Chiedo More Game, which loosely translates to frying oil of game. He was fondly known as CMG, following his baptismal name Clement Michael George and the local name Chiedo More Game. He attended a local mission school and was later sent to St. Mary's School Yala and St. Mary's College Kisubi in Uganda. He did his Cambridge School certificate in 1936. He attained a teaching degree in 1940 from Makerere University in Uganda, where he was enrolled earlier in 1937. After his graduation, he returned to Kenya, where he taught in the then Nyanza and Rift Valley provinces until 1947, with the Government African School GAS, presently Kapsabet High School, being his last school of teaching. In 1947, he was awarded a government scholarship to study social sciences at the University College of South Wales, presently Cardiff University. He applied to study law, and this request was turned down by the colonial government since Africans were not allowed to study law by then. Despite that, he was so determined and as a result enrolled for a law degree alongside Bachelors of Arts and Social Sciences. He obtained his law degree at a time when Kenya's first president, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, had started popularizing the Kenya African Union (KAU), demanding for independence and universal suffrage. He became a barrister in 1951 at Lincoln's Inn, London. This was one of the prestigious professional bodies in England. King George VI had just made Nairobi a city, and the white settlers were demanding serious action against the radicals. However, Governor Sir Philip Mitchell saw no serious need for banning KAU activities. By this time, the government had widened the security and intelligence services. To the surprise of those who knew him very well, Kodhek left a well-paying job in London and jetted back to the country at a time when there was high political tension. During this period, Governor Sir Philip Mitchell had started repressing the Mau Mau movement and its supporters. He retired in 1952. In October 7, 1952, Senior Chief Waruhiu Kungu was shot dead. Sir Evelyn Baring, who was then the new governor, declared a state of emergency. Argwings Kodhek decided to defend the rights of ordinary Kenyans, and by this time, more than 500 Mau Mau supporters had been jailed. He believed that human rights were indivisible and universal, and that freedom could not be appropriate in West and inapplicable in Africa. Argwings Kodhek was so determined to give all the Mau Mau supporters and other ordinary Kenyans who had been arrested legal support. Among many others, he successfully defended Waruru Kanja against being convicted of capital offense during the struggle for independence. Waruru Kanja later became Nyeri Member of Parliament and Minister for Information and Broadcasting in the 1980s. His stand with the Mau Mau movement earned him the title Mau Mau Lawyer from the Western press, and this was meant to demean him. Chief Luka Kahangara, among other 150 loyalists, were killed in the 1953 Lari massacre. 48 of those arrested and charged were successfully helped to appeal by Argwings Kodhek. He formed the Kenya African National Congress, but the then government denied him registration until he changed its name to Nairobi District African Congress. This was after Littleton Constitution allowed for an increased African representation, and as a result, the government allowed the formation of district-based political parties, with the exception of Mount Kenya region. Before the Littleton Constitution, there was a ban on any African political organization. This ban existed between 1953 and 1956. He faced Tom Mboya, then emerging trade unionist, for the control of Nairobi politics. It was believed that Tom Mboya had the support of the West on this. He often said that the Americans were not Mboya's friends, and he believed they were his masters. Something funny was in place. Until mid-50s, a black man who had sexual relations with a white woman would be hanged, but a male who had such relations with a black woman would face no penalty. Despite this, Argwings Kodhek jetted back to Kenya with an Irish wife, Miss Marvin Tate. This shocked many. Nairobi's Westlands was reserved for whites, while Nairobi's Eastlands was reserved for blacks only. CMG, as many called him, had a rough time since he could not live in Westlands, neither could her Irish wife live in Eastlands. Argwings Kodhek went to court to fight for the rights of a married couple, one of them being living together, and he won. Now, when facing each other in the race for Nairobi seat, Mboya could describe European women as Africans' public enemy number one, referring to CMG's wife. Argwings Kodhek lost this seat to Tom Mboya of People's Convention Party, PCP. Jaramogi's camp later nominated Argwings Kodhek and blocked Walter Odede, who would be Tom Mboya's father-in-law, from contesting for the Central Nyanza seat on a KANU ticket. Jaramogi was uncomfortable with Mboya's American links. Argwings Kodhek won and became a member of parliament for Game. In addition, CMG was one of the KANU's legal minds at the Lancaster Conference. In 1963, CMG was appointed an Assistant Minister of Defense by Jomo Kenyatta. In 1966, he became the Minister of Natural Resources and Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in 1967. Argwings Kodhek later divorced Miss Marvin Tate and married Joan. In January 29, 1969, Argwings Kodhek died in a mysterious road accident in Nairobi. This road was later named after him. His death came at a time Kenya was going through a high political tension. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga had parted ways with President Jomo Kenyatta. His death was surrounded with talks of assassination, and a number of publications quoted a senior man in the then government saying CMG's injuries were consistent with gunshot wounds. Argwings Kodhek was the first East African to graduate with a degree in law.
Dak no weyo agwenge chamo luche.